You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode on the Flip Empire Show. My name's Alex Pardo. If this is your first time tuning in or if you've recently discovered the show, thank you for investing your time, energy, and resources into plugging in. And I think you've chosen a great episode to tune into because I got a lot to share with you. Now, if you've been following the show for a while, you may have heard me say in the past that I prefer to come on behind the microphone here and just kind of speak from the heart. Most of the time, 98% of the time, I don't have notes I'm going off of, and I'm speaking from the heart and from the head, and just kind of sharing with you what is going on in my journey, the wins, the losses, the triumph, the heartbreaks, the lessons learned, and everything in between, right? I think that's one of the things that makes this show unique. So if you haven't plugged into previous podcast episodes, I believe this is episode 712, and there's a lot that we've covered throughout the years. I've had some incredible guest experts. I just recently had Colin Andrews on the last podcast, so definitely check that one out. But I want to talk to you about, I want to start today's podcast episode with a quote that I heard this morning. After I share the quote with you, I'll provide some context, but this is what was told to me. If you do what's easy, you'll have a hard life. If you do what's hard, you'll have an easy life. Now, here's some context. So my wife and I recently joined this kind of high-end gym. Think of a country club without the golf. It's called Lifetime, and it's very close to our house. It's super convenient. And last Friday, a buddy of mine invited me to go play pickleball at Lifetime because they have indoor courts and they have this brand new, beautiful facility. And we had nothing going on at the time. My kiddos were with the in-laws. And so I'm like, all right, cool, man, let's play some pickleball. So I head over there and was just completely blown away by the amenities, the customer service, just kind of how everything was first class. And it just got me thinking about my business. And I plant this seed with you and I share this story with you because I want you to be thinking about your business, right? How can you make your business a first class experience? How can your customer service be so over the top that it leaves a lasting impression on people? Well, anyways, we ended up joining, and so they have they have everything, all the amenities you can think of, from sauna, steam room, hot tub, cold plunge, lap pool, resort style pool, just incredible equipment, all these different, a variety of just awesome classes. And so for the last probably 4 or 5 days, I've been going to these 6 a.m. classes, right? So I've done Vinyasa hot yoga. I did a GTX kind of interval intensity class this morning. I did a core class a couple days ago. Anyways, I did this class. I did this thing called the hydro massage. And then my routine has been to hit the cold plunge for 5 minutes, shower there because they have like all these resources, shower, get changed, and then hit like the lounge to get some work done and just get some do some reading, get some work done, etc. So anyways, the last 3 times this dude and I just happened to be going into the cold plunge around the same time. We kind of finished the class, we do some things, and then we unintentionally hop into this cold tub. And we're talking probably 45-ish degrees. And so we go in there. And one of the things I've learned is when you strike up a conversation in a cold setting like that, time goes by quicker. And so anyways, we strike up a conversation. Cool dude, he's an entrepreneur as well. And we get out of the hot tub and, we kind of leave like that area, that locker room area, and we continue the conversation. And I'm forgetting exactly what we were talking about, but he basically shared that quote with me, and he did it very like off the cuff, not like he had just recently read this. And I've heard a version of that, but just the way he said it in the delivery, just kind of like it hit home for me. And I was like, yeah, it's interesting you shared that because what we just did, like this 5-minute cold plunge in 45-degree water, is exactly that, right? Like it's not hard, but then it makes things easier, right? As far as recovery time, reducing inflammation, like the mental clarity, and just how alive you feel after the cold plunge. I mean, it's pretty awesome. So that was a small example. And I've really been kind of ruminating on that quote. And I've been asking myself really throughout the day, because that conversation happened earlier this morning, what have I been choosing to do that's easy because I don't want to do the hard work? And then conversely, like the cold plunge, what have I chosen to do that's hard that I now have evidence has made things in my life easier? As an example, just kind of keeping along the same theme, getting up at 4:35 in the morning to get a little stretch in and then hit a hard class. Like it's not super fun to get up at that time in the morning, but I always feel great after I do it. You feel accomplished. And so it's a deposit, right? So I wanted to just share that with you because I think there's value in asking yourself questions like that, right? When are you choosing ease and comfort and then sacrificing long-term gain? And then when have you chosen maybe something that's challenging that you know will provide fruit for you, whether it's short-term, mid-term, or long-term? And I would encourage you to lean into what's difficult, lean into what's challenging, right? That's what, if you read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, like that's what it's all about. It's about mental toughness. And I think the cold plunge, and this is the last time I'll refer to that, that's essentially what it does. It's your brain and your body screaming at you, no, 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 but yet you overcoming those thoughts and saying, yes, 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 like I control the mind, not vice versa. Anyway, it's been a super, super productive day. I've really enjoyed having a new morning routine in a different setting and have already just met some cool people. So think about the fact that proximity is power, right? That's another thing I wanted to share with you that just kind of came to me. When you put yourself in certain environments, you're opening the doors to conversations like what I had. And little does that dude know that just that one off the cuff comment has had an impact on me, right? And now I'm sharing it on a podcast that thousands and thousands of people are going to listen to. And my guess is it's probably going to resonate with some people. And so it's a ripple effect, right? So part of the reason I do this podcast is because I've always had the belief system, or I shouldn't say always, right? I don't like to speak in absolutes, but for a long time, I've had the belief system that you need to be a funnel of valuable content and information, right? And so kind of like the information funnel framework that I think about this through, and the lens that I kind of filter things through is when I hear something valuable, right? When I hear something that resonates with me, like that quote, if you do what's easy, you'll have a hard life. If you do what's hard, you'll have an easy life. Share it with people. Like be a funnel, because you just never know what you share with somebody that can change the course of their day, that can have an impact on their life, that can vibrate throughout their family and their community, etc. And so that's why I like to just have the mindset of contribution and what can I do to help this person? And it could be the smallest thing. It could be like, here's an example. Like after the cold plunge, I showered, got dressed. I went to go grab a cup of coffee so I can sit down and start reading. And the barista, the lady behind this Lifetime Lounge coffee bar, she goes, "Oh, how's your day?" And I say, "Oh, I'm blessed." And she looked at me and she kind of like took a step back. She's like, "Blessed? Like that's awesome." And you could tell that it kind of caught her off guard because she's probably so used to hearing the routine, like, "Oh, I'm good," or like for me, it drives me crazy when I hear someone say like, "Same different day," right? Or something along those lines, because it's such an indication that that person may or may not realize that their thoughts are having an impact on their language, and their language has an impact on their life. And it's just kind of like this cycle. So just kind of as an aside, monitor your thoughts, monitor your words, because words have power. So kind of a transition and staying in theme and on brand with being a funnel of positive information. I was on a training call today with an incredible entrepreneur by the name of Dan Martell, who is the author of a book called Buying Back My Time. And honestly, I have heard of Dan throughout the years, but I've never really consumed his content or kind of just been introduced to his books and resources. And so while I was listening to him, I downloaded the book on Audible, and I'm going to be buying the book to actually read it. But I was hit with so much valuable information on this training call that I took the time prior to this podcast to condense some of the key takeaways and nuggets. And so I'm actually going to share with you on this podcast some of the things that struck me, some of the things that I thought had a really, really profound impact on me that I know is going to have a meaningful impact on my business, right? And the people that I work with. And so I wanted this podcast to be kind of, I hope this is an evergreen resource that you can come back to. Let me take a step back, and it's the timing is incredible. So I've been working with my executive assistant for the last couple of years, and she's been amazing. She's been fantastic. We have a great relationship, and she's taken a lot of weight off of my shoulders, and she handles a lot in the different aspects of the business, right? From Ascend to the podcast to some of the lending that we're involved in, storage, and everything in between. Like, she's got her fingerprints over a lot of that. She's created a lot of our systems, a lot of our checks and balances. Anyways, recently she told me that she was essentially going to be going off on her own to start her own venture at the end of October. And while I was taken back because I wasn't ready for it, I was very happy for her, like genuinely happy for her, because I promote people following, like creating a vision for their life and then going out and pursuing their dreams. And I want to champion those efforts. And so how can I sit back and selfishly say, oh, like, I don't want you to leave, or why are you leaving me now? Now, don't get me wrong. I had a conversation with her and I asked some questions to see if there was still an opportunity to work together, but she's got it on her heart that she wants to go out and do her own thing. And so I'm supporting her in that. And then now it's, in the past, I probably would have been like now what? But I think for me, it was a sign, at least to me, it was a sign of growth that like I quickly shifted to, okay, well, this presents an opportunity now to find another awesome person that can fulfill that role. And she has already left the position much better than when she found it, right? And so that's a side tip for you guys, is when you hire someone, make sure that you set the expectation and that they have the mindset that they're at some point, if and when they leave that position, because nothing lasts forever, then they left it in a better place than how they found it, right? So now that I've kind of shared that context, this training with Dan Martell just was so spot on, and it's already gotten me to take some actions that I hadn't taken before. And by the way, as a just kind of like a side plug, if you're listening to this and you might be interested in an executive assistant role and just helping me in the different areas of my business and kind of being like my right hand, flipempire.com/EA, E as in executive, A as an assistant, flipempire.com/EA. Very simple web form that might take a couple of minutes. And if you know, or if you know somebody that you think might be interested, a lot of flexibility, just a lot of variety, I'm very flexible and I think easy to work with. But anyways, share that link with somebody who might be interested, and then we'll be in contact with them. So, okay. I was hit with a lot. It was almost like drinking out of a fire hydrant. But the cool thing for me as I reflected back on these notes is that I'm already doing a lot of these things. I just realized that I'm not doing it nearly as well as I should be or could be doing, right? And Dan's got a whole system. So I definitely recommend that you guys check out his book, Buying Back My Time. I want to give him 100% of the credit for the content I'm going to share. Although, like I said, there's portions of this that I have done throughout the years, and maybe I can share some stories in this podcast. But I think he just took it kind of like, he went deeper on the training. Now, to set the right expectation, this isn't meant to be a quote unquote masterclass, right? Like there's only but so much that I can go in depth with as far as some of these things. But if this resonates with you and you want me to go deeper, then I can on future episodes, and I can seek the right experts, maybe even Dan himself, to go and elaborate on a lot of these things. And so if you find me on social media, tag me, let me know. Let's start a dialogue and a conversation. I'd love to do that. So one of the frameworks or the concepts that he talked about was called the buyback loop. And the buyback loop is essentially that every entrepreneur, so you're listening to this, likely you are an entrepreneur or you're an aspiring entrepreneur, right? But even if you're not, at some point we've dealt with pain in our life, right? As an entrepreneur, we deal with pain in our business. There's setbacks, there's challenges. That's life. That's reality. And we need to embrace that. Well, one of the things he shared was that pain is feedback, right? It's feedback that there's something broken in the process, oftentimes, not always, right? So one of the things he talked about doing was a time and energy audit. Now, I have the receipts. It's in previous episodes. I've on more than one occasion, I have shared how I have coached people through an energy audit myself. That's very similar to what Dan essentially talked about. But really, I'm just going to share with you Dan's version. Dan's version is for 2 weeks. Now, this is where kind of things differ because I've always done time and energy audits for 1 week. He highly recommends doing this for 2 weeks to make sure that it's a catch-all, where you log everything you do in 15-minute increments for 2 weeks straight. And then at the end of each day, you essentially, on another column to the right, you put anywhere between $1 and $4 signs to represent the value of that task, right? So let me see. I have a PDF here. So I'm just going to quickly allude to it so that I can share with you some examples. So, like let's say you drive to the office, right? Like that would represent $1 sign. Let's say you make yourself a cup of coffee. That would represent $1 sign. Let's say you check emails, $1 sign. I think you get the idea. Let's say you lead or participate in a team meeting. Okay, well that's $2 signs. Let's say that you present a proposal to a client or there's a presentation that you give. That could represent $3 signs. Now, let's say you have an actual sales call, right? Like you go out and you meet with a motivated seller. That represents $4 signs. So hopefully I've given you enough examples so that you can kind of discern what would be $1 sign versus one would be $4. And you can kind of tweak this to fit whatever feels right for you. So at the end of each day, you go ahead and do that. And then the final kind of component of this exercise is to highlight in green the tasks that give you energy and highlight in red the ones that extracted and took energy from you, right? So very, very similar to what I've shared in the past. The only difference is mine was 4 columns, right? Like what are the things that are high ROI, right? Like they move the needle that give you energy. What are the things that are high ROI that drain you from energy, right? What are the things that are low ROI that give you energy? What are the things that are high ROI that drain you, right? So like you have those 4 components. So it's a slight variation. Either way, the point of this is to encourage you to do these time energy audits, because what that's going to do is it's essentially going to show you where you're productive, where you're moving the needle, where you need to spend time, and the things that you need to offload, delegate to somebody else like an assistant. By the way, he really underscored the point that if you don't even have an assistant, you should have no business going out and hiring a COO or an operations person or anything like that. His belief, and so is mine, that your first hire needs to be an assistant, needs to be an executive assistant. So anyways, he talked about the buyback loop. So essentially it's audit. The second step of that would be to transfer, right? So transfer the things that are low energy or energy draining, transfer the things that are low dollar signs, transfer that to an executive assistant or to somebody on your team. Then you start to, when you create that space and that gap in your calendar, now you start to fill that time with the things that are high value, high ROI, revenue generating, and ideally those things that overlap with what give you energy. Okay, so hopefully this is making sense. I feel like if I could display this, it would land home more. So, I trust this is resonating with you on some level. He spent some time talking about something he calls the camcorder shot list, which I've talked about in the past. Essentially, it's defining the tasks that take up your time, defining the tasks that are low value that can be delegated to somebody else, and then just use something like Loom or Zoom or Camtasia to essentially record step by step on how to do that task. I've talked about that on previous episodes in the past. I like to do it in 5-minute chunks so that if something changes in the process, you don't have to go back and revisit and redo the entire video. And then I like to actually send that to a virtual assistant and have them create a detailed step-by-step SOP, a standard operating procedure. So now when I train somebody, they have the video and they have the SOP. So that's kind of a pro tip that I've learned throughout the years that I think can really help you. So I'm just kind of looking at my notes here. One of the things that really, really just hit me between the eyes is what he calls the 1-3-1 rule. So here's what the 1-3-1 rule is. And again, it kind of validated me in certain ways because I've done a version of this. Again, I just haven't done it as good as what he explained it. But the 1-3-1 rule is essentially it's a rule, it's a framework that if somebody on your team comes to you with a problem or with a challenge, they also have to be ready to provide 3 viable potential ideas for a solution. And then the one so that's the one is the problem. The 3 are what are 3 potential solutions, right? And then the last one is their top suggested recommendation, right? So think of somebody that you work with that's come to you with a challenge. Are you the type of leader that tells them what to do? Are you the type of leader that solves the problem for them? Or are you the type of leader that empowers them, lets them figure it out, and lets them implement what they think, right? So one of the things Dan talked about is how he's like, sometimes I'm terrible to work with, and I'm paraphrasing, right? Because I never tell my team what to do, right? Like they already know that when there's a problem, they're going to share with me the challenge. They're going to share with me the 3 viable solutions. And then they're going to tell me, hey, based on this, here's what I think we should implement. Now, he talked about the fact that he'll coach them, right? Well, have you considered this, right? And so, oh no, I haven't. Okay, well, maybe that's something that you should add as a potential solution. What do you? So he'll coach them and guide them through it, but he won't feed them the answer. It hit me between the eyes so hard that I realized I've done that to a degree with my daughters, with my 6 and 8-year-olds, but I need to be constantly doing it, right? Like as a parent, you don't want to give your child, you don't want to give them the fish, right? Like the whole analogy, you want to teach them how to fish. Same thing with your team members. So the 1-3-1 rule I thought was really, really powerful. And again, I've done versions of that. But what you want to do is you have to understand that if people are coming to you to solve a problem, then you're the bottleneck, right? Like you've essentially taught them how to treat you by constantly solving their problems. And by the way, if you're constantly putting out fire mode or solving problems, then what do you think you're going to get more of? You're going to get more problems coming your way. So just hopefully you've done a good job of like onboarding someone, training someone, investing in them. And if you've hired them, they're more than likely they're capable of solving the problem if you let them, right? So anyways, those are just some of the things that really jumped out at me. One thing I'll leave you with is he talked about regret minimization, right? And essentially regret minimization is like future pacing, like fast forward to when you're 80, 85 years old, right? Are you looking back saying, man, I should have done that different. Man, I wish I would have done this. Man, I wish I would have done that. I had a conversation with a gentleman that shared with me, and I'm pausing because I don't want to overshare. And obviously I wouldn't mention who it is, right? Because that's all confidential. But he was basically sharing how he's experienced some trauma in the past. And as a result, he is scared, fearful to put himself out there and start this business that he already has a long track record of producing results for clients, but he's done it in a 1099 subcontractor kind of role. Now he wants to really expand and he wants to launch this business and just do it on a larger scale. And this is somebody who has worked with and coached entrepreneurs that make 7+ figures a year. He's got a long track record of success, but because of this trauma he's experienced in his past from a relationship and how that was used against him, he's been shy to put himself out there, right? And so we spent a lot of time, I spent some time just kind of like encouraging him, coaching him through just working on the mindset. And we talked about this regret minimization, right? Like, hey man, like when you're 75, 80 years old, are you looking back and saying, I wish I would have pushed through that fear and launched this business, right? Like, who are you robbing by not going out and launching this business that you know is going to help people, right? Like, so I've shared this in the past, but my belief is that we all have God-given gifts and talents. We have these unique abilities, and it's our job to multiply that, to spread it, to share it, right? That's part of why I do this podcast, and I don't hoard valuable information, and why I believe I'm a funnel, right? And I'm clearly giving Dan credit. Like, I didn't come up with this stuff, but it's valuable information that I really believe can help you. And so I believe it's my job to be a conduit for which that information to flow through and pass through to you. And then hopefully you're doing the same. Hopefully you're paying it forward, and I may be sharing this podcast episode, right? Or maybe you're speaking to someone else about what you've heard and what you've learned. So anyways, I thought that regret minimization, the ideology behind that of fast forwarding can really accelerate our growth and success if we allow it to. So with that being said, this is probably one of the longer solo shows I've done. I hope that you've gotten something out of this. And again, one of the asks I have is to just subscribe to the show to make sure that you're notified every Monday, and or share it. Hopefully it's an and, right? Share the show with people, because I put a lot of time, energy, and resources into this because I genuinely want to help, right? And I genuinely want to pass along information and seek the best experts. So any way that you can help grow the show is a huge, I have a lot of gratitude and appreciation for it. And then lastly, as just a shameless plug, I am in search of the right person to fill this executive assistant role and to work side by side with me. So flipempire.com/EA, E as an executive, A as an assistant, flipempire.com/EA. Share that resource with anybody who you think might benefit or is looking for a position that offers flexibility and work from home and several other things that are pretty cool. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate you giving me the space and giving me this platform to just go and share and speak my heart. And I want to continue to do it on a deeper level and hopefully just impact you to the best of my ability. So with that being said, guys, have an incredible day, and I will catch you on the next one. All right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed that Flip Empire episode and got a lot of value out of it. Make sure to check the show notes page for any resources that were mentioned. And speaking of resources, honestly, I don't think I've done the best job of sharing with you my top curated, highly recommended tools and resources that I use in my business or have used in my business. In some cases, these are affiliate relationships with people that I highly trust and respect, and I know these tools and resources can help you and your business go to the next level. And as an ethical bribe, if you decide to try out one of these resources using my link, I will go ahead and send you an unadvertised bonus. I'll send you something of high value. All you got to do is shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com. Go ahead and let me know that you tried out this resource, and however I can help you getting started with that. Chances are that I know it very, very well and currently use it or have used it. So make sure to check that out, flipempire.com/resources. And if I can be of help or service to you in any way, just shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com, and I will do anything I can for you. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next show.